Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we have a 4-game slate here for you guys on Monday. Some interesting stuff going down over the weekend with some pretty big matchups. But we, like I said, have 4 to choose from here. Some Eastern Conference games are probably the best matchups we can bring you. So we're starting off with the Celtics and Knicks matchup. Also got another Eastern Conference matchup for you in our other game video there, the 76ers and the Heat, as well as our player props for you that we are looking to stay hot for you guys on. So make sure to like and subscribe to that page and continue to follow along with us. Also want you to head to thelines.com. That's where you can get all the great written content we're talking about and more. Lots of attention on the NBA right now on thelines.com. And you can use that odds finder tool we have up there. Make sure you are getting the best odds available to you from all those U.S. sports books, giving you guys NBA bets this season. Nate, let's go ahead and jump into this little 4-game slate and then talk about our game here, my Knicks and your Celtics.
Yeah, and then the other game we'll talk about is Heat +6 at Sixers. Then the Pistons are +6 at the Hornets. Hornets suddenly winning basketball games. Celtics opened at -5. It's now -2.5 because Jaylen Brown is going to be out for personal reasons, so that has moved the line. And then the Magic are +4.5 at the Pelicans. It's an immediate reaction that, like, I'm saying, okay, you're getting value here because Jaylen Brown is out. He's a great player, and he is definitely helpful for what the Celtics do in certain moments, but he's extremely erratic. He is tough to play off of, I think, for other guys. You'll often see him throw passes that were not really expected, or because he doesn't pass much, and I think he takes away from the rhythm of other guys to an extent. In any case, it's much more important for the Celtics that they have Marcus Smart back, that they have Rob Williams and Al Horford looking healthy and refreshed after the break. Both those guys key in the close win over the Sixers. Did you know at this point that they've won 10 straight and 14 of their last 16 when Marcus Smart is playing? Regardless of who else is there, Jaylen Brown has missed quite a bit of time in that span, and they just keep on trucking. And look, the last time they played the Knicks, it was a high-scoring game. The last 2 times have been high-scoring. I think we both looked at this total, we're trying to figure out why 223. Why are we staying that low? When the Knicks have been lighting it up lately, for sure. Won 5 straight on their own here, 123 points per game, and really playing kind of like Celtics ball, right? They're top 10 in terms of points off threes, in terms of 3-point attempts. Pace is up for them for sure, 97.2. And the fact that what they're limiting threes and assists makes you think I don't know if the Celtics will be able to do their thing playing the sprawl ball. The teams that the Knicks have played here, it's Philly twice, can't hit a 3, Atlanta can't hit a 3, fired their coach. And there are some bad defensive lapses in here, giving up 64 paint points to Utah, giving up 27 assists to 9 turnovers to Philly. But I'm still just not ready to trust these Knicks that they can produce against winning teams. They're still below 500 against teams with records above 500. Boston, obviously, great record in all circumstances, 21-10 against winning teams, and a great record in the division. While the Knicks are 5-8 in this tough division and 4-6 as home dogs. 3rd game in 4 nights for the Knicks. I just think the depth and versatility that Boston has is a huge difference here. Even without Jaylen Brown, they have plenty of depth. And the Knicks, it's just been 2 guys and then R.J. Barrett getting where you fit in. It's just they have a very high percentage of unassisted 2-point field goals. That's just Jaylen and Julius Randle making their own offense. We talked earlier in the season about how Jaylen was unlocking things for Julius, and now it's just kind of like them being all-stars on their own, which is great when you're playing middling teams, but maybe the best team in the East. I don't know if it gets it done tonight. I think Boston gets revenge after that OT loss in the last matchup they had.
Yeah, I'm not going to focus on that. Who's going to win this game? To be honest, I do think it's a pick 'em. I think it's fair to say that the Knicks can win this one. To be fair to the Celtics, even in that OT loss, the Celtics let that one get away more than anything. If you watch some of that game, the Knicks had to sort of win like 5 big minutes at the end of the game to get it into overtime is really how they did it. And then they actually went down in overtime by like 4 or 5, and then they still pulled it out. So it was just like a sort of a weirder game that had like these weird spurts of energy from the Knicks that allowed them to win the most important minutes of the game rather than any other part of it where they were getting dominated. And I just would rather mess with the total. It's dropped 3 points. I want to know what I guess it makes you second guess your confidence for a minute when we both look at it, go 223. It actually dropped from 226. How are we so not on the same page as whomever it is, probably sharps that are betting this down so early? I'm not really worried about it. Like, I feel a lot of confidence. If you look at the last 2 matchups from these teams, the team that the Knicks are boasting this year is a lot different than the one that they're boasting last year, and that's why last year's games in last January went under in this matchup easily. 1 game in Boston, 1 game in New York, but the last 2, 1 game in Boston the last one was in Boston, as we know. That was the one that went into overtime. But even the game before with that 51 rather point total that was in Boston. In New York for that one. Like, they're coming back. The Knicks at home have proven to be a team, especially in the latter part of the season, maybe the last like month. Their home splits versus their road numbers, it's a lot better. They actually were better on the road. Then they just completely turned it around. One of the most important reasons that I like this over and that I'm looking at it, for this game, is Mr. Josh Hart and what he's done outside of the normal. He's 14 points a game. It's great. But what he comes in and delivers to you is a guy who's a starter. You're probably 4th or 5th best player at this point, if not higher than that. And he's not worried about scoring. We're still judging RJ Barrett based on scoring. Josh Hart's come in and sort of been the piece that they needed for sure, that was a little bit different, that wasn't worried about scoring but can still offer you all of those hustle points and stats as well. And I think that's a big reason for what you've seen in the last 5 from them. He's averaging more. He's shooting better. I mean, 60% from the field and 62% from 3, making like 2 of 3 threes a game. That's all they need from him. They just need that sort of stopgap. And on defense, he adds something to that their perimeter defense that they did not have, like a guy who can actually defend multiple positions on the wing, and you feel good about it versus just having Mitchell Robinson as your only defender there. So the only reason I bring that up is just because I think he adds to the overall flow of the whole team, and I do still think he contributes to these games going over. I mean, since he's been on the team, the Knicks have gone over in 4 of 6 at this point. So I feel pretty good about that for them, and I just think that the points are going to be coming. Jalen obviously a bit better on defense as well, and offense seems to flow even more so when he's not out there, as you said, because at this point, Jason Tatum is that guy for them. He is the number 1 offensive option, and he's proven to be able to be that at this point. No matter what, they're still going to be able to get theirs, as you mentioned, for the Celtics. So I really like over 223 in this more than anything, and I plan on hitting that as soon as we're done with this.
Yeah, I guess the total dropped along with the spread because of Jaylen Brown being out. But yeah, there are again numbers supporting that they're actually a better cohesive offensive team without him. They've not only won 9 of their last 11, they're scoring 120 a game and 29.5 assists and 18.5 threes at over 40%. That's exactly what you like to see with the Celtics. I mean, it's like, did they hit 15 or 16 threes? Did they shoot over 36%? Then they probably won the game. And so yep. I know you think the Knicks can win a shootout with these Celtics because you saw it a couple weeks ago, but I think that was a wonky game. I mean, Jalen, it would have gone under this total if it stayed in regulation, right? It would have been 220. But Jalen was 8 for 22 from the field, 1 for 8 from 3. Not helpful. Tatum was cooking with 35 points. The Celtics did hit 27 threes against this Knicks team way back at the beginning of the season, but I think we both agree. I mean, yeah, the over is definitely in play here. 4 of the last 5 at the Garden for the Knicks. I've gone over, the exception being when Philly played at the like 90 pace and only hit 7 threes. And Boston just, when you get more minutes to guys like Brogdon and Sam Hauser, they're gonna be raining threes. It's gonna look at least like lucky regression for the Knicks to have been the top 3-point defense in this stretch, because the Celtics are just going to get better looks and they have too many weapons out there. So I definitely lean towards them winning along with the over.
No, I'm good with it. I'm not concerned with opponent 3-point percentage too much. I really want to know how many threes are opposing teams making on you, and really how well are you guarding it? How are you committed to guarding it? And I mean, still 11.5 threes made per game. I understand it's been like a really nice opponent 3-point percentage of 32% that's been coming against the Knicks in their last 6 games or so. But yeah, those 3-pointers made are still above 11, and the 3-point percentage is such a high variance shot that I'm not really concerned. I'm not looking at that going, oh, the Knicks are playing shutdown D because opponents aren't hitting their threes against them. The conversation around the Knicks for the past 2 seasons has been the worst opponent field goal percentage on uncontested threes because the 3-point gods are smiling on them essentially. And I think that continues to be the case. And it's not like they're going to be, better at stopping the Celtics team from scoring these threes, especially the way Marcus Smart comes in there and just adds to that passing effect on the wing. So like you mentioned, but
216 is a really low total for the NBA today, but I mean, that's exactly what we've seen the last 5 times these teams have met in the regular season. In fact, we've seen it average about 200 at a 90 pace, with Philly getting nothing done offensively, with Embiid struggling like he does against nobody else. And for me, I'm just more concerned about how long Joel Embiid can keep this up. I mean, he's playing more consistently than he has in any other season, but he's just doing more on both ends, right? He had like 6 blocks against the Celtics, and he would protect the rim, and then there'd be nobody there to help him rebound, and you could just see the exhaustion every single play up to the point where he just like fishes for free throws so he can get some rest on the other end. I mean, that is a huge part of his game, getting the free throw line.
Yeah.
Both these teams have very high free throw rate recently. I mean, Miami has at one point was top 5 limiting free throw attempts. They still are in their last 8, huh? And I mean, at one point they were number 1 and number 1 in defensive efficiency. They've just unraveled in terms of just doing exactly the opposite of what you might hope from them. Just not bringing it against bad teams, losing at Charlotte. But I still have a lot more faith in Miami, popping up, bringing up their intensity. Jimmy Butler against one of his former teams here. They've won 3 of the last 5 against Philly here. The one of the recent ones they lost was actually with Embiid out. It was the Tyrese Maxey Sixers, which is a completely different matchup. So they know how to at least make these games low scoring and drag them out. And that's why I don't really think I like Philly to cover 6. If you talk about teasing this in either direction, I would say Miami plus 10 for sure. I mean, I know they got blown out in Milwaukee, but this is such a different matchup. Like, there's no way Philly's going to spread you out and hit threes from all over the place. Milwaukee hit 19 threes at nearly 50%. It's just a completely different offense. It's just about, can you limit their pick and roll game, and can you limit Embiid, which they've done lately, and which, fatigue is also going to be a factor for him. Just one day off after playing the Celtics down the stretch there.
Yep, and we should give the big man credit for hitting that full court shot as time was expiring. Didn't go in, but I literally just yelled at the top, like, that was the craziest shit I'd ever seen. It didn't go in. Either way, yes, I'm with you. That 6 points in this matchup just doesn't feel right. I don't know what Miami would have done. They haven't done anything to give you confidence in them to be able to do anything, cover, score, anything, and really score, man. Like, they couldn't get 100 against the Bucks with Giannis only playing he played like 7 minutes before he had to come out. And yeah, everything about what they're doing is gross. I just starting with like, who is the 3rd best player on this team? I guess 4th best player on this team, really. Like, you've got Bam, Jimmy, and Hero doing plenty, and over their last roughly the last 10 games, really, which is a nice sample size, and Heroes played 8 of those. Bam and Jimmy played pretty much all of those as well. They're averaging close to 70 a game, 20 boards, 13 assists between the 3 of them. You look at the other around them, they're depending on Oladipo and Lowry, who have played 2 games for Lowry in the last 10. Depot's played 4 in the last 10, including the last 4 that he's missed because of these injuries he keeps getting. Then you look at Caleb Martin and Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, and all 3 of them are shooting horribly over their last 10. really none of them are shooting better than 45% from the field or 33% from deep, which is really what you depend on a ton from Strus especially, but even Vincent and Martin as well. In these situations, they are 10-5 to the over. I don't want to touch an over between these two teams, even at 216.5. I mean, in these situations where the Heat are away dogs, they're going over in 8 of their last 9 in that situation. So it kind of seems like this is prime for them to just continue to give up points. I mean, they would go over this total in their last 3 because they're giving up like 125 points a game, not even because they're able to get close, more than that on their own. So, playing at the normal slow pace that both these teams play at, that's why, in their last season regular matchups, they played at like a 95 pace between them, just because that's just what they do when they get there. And I think you can expect more of that. I really just like unders in this game. I mean, Embiid's points total is at 32.5 with a 216.5 points total on the game. His point prop is at 32.5. That's just insane to me. I mean, it is indicative of the fact that he's probably begging for help anywhere he can get it. Harden is just not the same scorer that he was. If he's not hitting from 3, don't expect him to get 30 points. And if he's, because it's getting to the free throw line like 7 times a game, they have been a lot better at that in their last roughly 8 games at home, getting to the line like the second most. I mean, the Heat also getting to the line. We know that these two teams do that, but if those foul calls don't get, made for them, and the Heat have been really good at limiting free throws in their last bunch of games as well, which, like you said, they've been number 1 on the season at times, but dropping a little bit as of late, still in the top 5. So you kind of expect, them to be able to at least hang with Embiid. That's the reason that they've been able to win like that playoff series that they won last season, and then even in their last regular season games. The reason Miami's able to hang and do what they do is because they've limited to Embiid to under 20 points a game in those last 4 that they played. I mean, even in the last 8 that they played, when you include the playoffs, they had the same stats against him in their 6-game series where they limited to less than 20 points, fewer than 10 boards, fewer than 2 assists as well, and 7 free throw attempts a game for Joel in that time period. So you're not going to find me taking an over, no matter what the situation is with Philly going over or Miami going over consistently as away underdogs. Like, I'm not paying attention to that. I'm paying attention to these two teams playing each other. And if you think this is going to be a nasty, slobberish game like we both expect it to be, 6 points is just too many at that point. If Philly's not going to have any kind of fluidity to their offense to be able to break away from this Miami team, I don't expect Miami's offense to be able to do shit, but like they're still going to be able to hang around on defense enough to make this like a weird, gross game that they can hang within 6 points.
Yeah, weird, gross game. PJ Tucker, first matchup against his former team as well. These teams actually haven't played yet, and it's going to be a home and away situation where they play again on Wednesday in Miami. We should mention that the Heat, of course, playing games with the injury report. We don't know if Hero or Lowry are going to play, which affects the over in that sense. But I do think if you see Tyler Hero active, that you could get over on 216 here with some confidence. I mean, Philly, their home road splits we've talked about plenty. I mean, they've gone over at an alarming rate at home. Didn't go over against the Celtics, sure, but the pace and the scoring at home. I mean, 120 points per game since the start of December at home. I know the Heat and they're just, their defense hasn't been up to snuff in terms of what it was in recent years. You'd say like, well, that's when the Heat come to town, it's going to be a 105 or below, but I just don't know where their focus is at. And maybe starting Kevin Love is not going to help your defense either. And they're going to try to just space things out a little bit more, play a little bit more shootout style, which you can if you have a playmaker like Hero. It's just, you always have to watch until the last minute with Miami because you don't know who's going to play. But even if they don't have some of these guys, I just have a hard time trusting Philly in this spot after the emotional exhaustion that was their Saturday night game to just come out and blow Miami away. I just don't see that happening.
No, the way they had to come back against the Grizzlies the night before, 2 nights before that as well, right? It took everything out of them to be able to win that game by 5 points when they were down by like 21 points at one point. And then that Celtics game, the emotional aspect of giving it away almost in the last couple of minutes. Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity to fade Embiid, which means you're fading the 76ers. And if Hero plays, sure, there's going to be more points, and you can feel better about that. He's been sizzling hot from deep as well in his last roughly like 8 games or so. But without him especially, like just not touching that total, to be honest with you. So, Nate, let's go ahead and jump into your first NBA play up prop for tonight. Your boy, Mr. Tatum.
All-star MVP Jason Tatum, but he is not just scoring with zero resistance since we came out of the break. He's being more of a playmaker because you see the Celtics getting healthy, several more guys back in lineup, including Marcus Smart. And, he kind of adjusts his game to be less of a total gunner. Really, it's just Tatum playing a ton of minutes and being productive all over the floor. But you look at his last 7 with Marcus in the lineup, 32 points per game, nearly 12 rebounds and 6 assists. So I'm actually not taking the points here, which is 32, which is, what he averages his last 20 without Jaylen Brown. He's not going to play tonight. But really, I want this rebounds assist prop is a little too low at 13.5. Plus 102 at FanDuel or even at DraftKings. 2 games out of the break here, averaging 12.5 boards, 6.5 assists, is just like cruising past those. That's what he's averaged his last 4 road games, playing nearly 40 minutes with a 34% usage rate. And like I said, with Jaylen out, he averages also 32 points at a 36% usage rate. So if you do want to bundle everything together and 44.5 PRA, I don't think that's a bad bet, but I just think the peripherals are too low. There should be a ton of rebounding opportunities here with the Knicks, who are playing at a bit of their faster pace here. He had 14 boards last time out against the Knicks. And I think he'll be making plays, making and racking up assists as well. I think he's looking at double-digit rebounds here, and you just need a few assists after that.
Yeah, it's just that the points are really high. Everything's really high for him in this game, even though the totals are dropping on the game itself. But it's a good bet in terms of the value that you're getting on it. It's right around what he is averaging in these types of situations. So I think with the value on the return, it might as well take it since it's about at the line of expected output from him. So I feel pretty good about this one though. An under in this Philly-Miami game. Under 32.5 points for Embiid. I thought it would be lower. I thought it would be closer to 30. I thought it would be 29.5, 30.5 points for him. I know what he's been doing, but it's Embiid against the Heat. If you get that on FanDuel, 32.5 is minus 120. A little bit better than the minus 125 on DraftKings. You can also look at the under 47.5 PRA. I like that a little bit better because of the minus 111 that you get, really close to even money on him to get under 48 points, rebounds, and assists. I just love adding the assists in there. He is not diming against this Heat team at all. 2 assists a game in his last 8 games against them, including in the playoffs there. His last 4 in the regular season versus Miami, 19 points a game, 10 boards, 2.8 assists. That's in 34 minutes with the same 30% usage that he gets all the time. I really, am eyeing the fact that he only gets 7 free throw attempts a game against them as well in his last 8 and 40% from the field. So not shooting great from the field, not even getting to the line to get those easy ones. You talked about in the game video how tired he looks and how much energy they just expended trying to come back against the Grizzlies and beating them at home, then having a tough one that they lost by 3 to the Celtics. So I just think, Miami, obviously with Bam and company, number 2 in limiting centers points per game and number 1 in limiting their rebounds and assists per game. It's been that way for a few years now. We know what they can do down low and defend the paint and everything like that. Embiid's an all-world talent, but it's a bad matchup for him. It has been for a long time, and these props remain way too high in this type of game.
Josh has a pretty good record of picking the under on these scary big guys like Luka. I think you hit 2 in a row unders on Luka, but just barely. I would take the whole PRA package to try to get under there because I do think, regardless of what you've seen in recent history or regardless of how a team's going to defend him, he can just get 35 points one way or another. There's a reason he is currently the scoring champion, right? And it's just a little scary taking the under on 32 points, especially when they're giving you better odds for the over. Like, I almost want to just say, like, you know what, screw recent history. Miami's not playing D like they used to. Embiid's probably going to get his 33. But I'm going with Gordon Hayward here, who's looks healthy for now. We'll see how long that lasts. But in his last 5, he's really turned up to be like sort of his all-star form of recent years. 22 points per game, 5.5 rebounds, 4 assists on a 24% usage rate. Playing well enough that Terry Rozier's usage has dropped pretty considerably the last 2, where Charlotte, popped up and surprised the Wolves. And then also beat the Heat because they've got Hayward playing well. So 16.5 points is pretty low for him. To hit 2 threes is incredibly juicy, plus 165. He's not a high volume 3-point shooter. He's hitting 1.5 in this 5-game span here, but at 57%. So, you're going to get some good looks against Detroit. Detroit, the second worst defense in the league on the year, third worst in terms of points and assists to small forwards. And the last 10 road games, a nice 123 defensive rating. So I think Gordo will continue to benefit from LaMelo Ball also playing extremely well and finding him. And that Charlotte offense starting to click here. Maybe it's a little different without Mason Plumlee, and that has something to do with it. But I think it's more just health for Hayward.
Yeah, it's all health. I will not hear any slander against the Plum Dog on this show. Who's actually, I know you won't, and he's playing really well. Actually, another double there the other night for the Clips. But you got to take something in this game. Someone's going to be scoring a bunch of points. Someone's going to be getting a bunch of stats filled up in this game. There's going to be a bunch of people probably doing that in a game that will be consisting of a lack of defense, to be sure, for those Detroit Pistons and their lack of D. But I'm going to go with 2 potential props here at the end. I want. And here's where I'm conflicted. I like Tobias Harris unders as well. You pointed that one out. You kind of pointed out both these to me, and I'm looking at RJ Barrett over or Tobias Harris under, and I think you could take either. And I'll start with the Tobias Harris under. Obviously, I just told you about a Joel Embiid under, but both these guys are ripe for that, to be honest. Tobias Harris not playing well in his last 9 games or so. His PRA right now, points, rebounds, assists combined on DraftKings is at 26.5. I think you actually get a little bit better juice on the same number there on FanDuel. Under 26.5, probably about 120, minus 120 on FanDuel for him to get that. His last 9, 11.5 points per game. 4 boards and 1.8 assists. His usage rate all the way down to 15.7%. This is a direct result, Nate, of Tyrese Maxey being back in the lineup in the last 10 games that he's been back. Obviously, that's going to hurt Tobias Harris and the amount of usage that he gets and how much of a focal point he is on the offense. In his last 3, just 2 boards and 1 assist per game as well. And what that tells you is he's the 4th-ish banana, right? He just doesn't have the ball in his hands to be able to go and get those assists. As far as the rebounds go, I just don't know where he is on the floor at this point consistently on defense. There's just too much Joel swallowing up everything down low. And his last 3 versus the Heat, 17 points a game on about a 20% usage rate. But if things continue at the way that they have with the way that this team is playing now, I just don't think that he's necessarily there. I would also add the other addition there of McDaniels there has not been helpful for him as well. Jane McDaniels is way better on defense right now than Tobias is, so he's getting some of those minutes as well from Tobias. So there's a lot to like for the under on him. I'm just going to also say, you pointed out the over on RJ. The thought process there is that RJ Barrett against the Celtics has been just killer. 20 a game in his 11 career starts versus them, with about 6 boards as well. Shooting 43% from the field, but 51% from deep, making better than 2.5 threes there, Nate. Also better at home where this game is taking place, and also has gotten back into the really groove of the offense with a 26% usage rate over the last 2 months, really since he's come back from a bit of an injury there as well. So I think you got to like RJ at 17.5 points. Maybe you like the rebounds as well, 21.5 points and rebounds for him, same odds. But let's give everyone an extra pick here tonight. We got 5 for you guys. Which one are you feeling on those 2, if not both of them?
Yeah, pull back the curtain and show that we were toss up on those last 2 picks. I also looked at Mark Williams for the Hornets while we're just going through the whole brainstorm process. But yeah, RJ averaging 20 over the last 2 months, and for his prop to be 17.5 in a game that we like the over, a game where the Celtics are not going to be sticking their best defender on RJ Barrett. Smart's going to be all over Brunson. Rob and Horford are going to be all over Randall. And that is part of why RJ Barrett's gotten his and Tatum's gotten his on the other end, because neither of them are really stopping the other one. So I do like that. But yeah, I think the peripherals with Tobias Harris are just so crazy low to see him have like 2 rebounds or fewer in like 3 of his last 4 games. It's like, what are you even doing other than just, being a 3-point shooter? You're being like, we've already got PJ Tucker. We don't need you to do that too. And so I think taking his whole PRA while the odds are bad, it's totally worth going under on that.
Yeah, I mean, PJ Tucker, I'm not going to say anything about that. But yeah, the minutes as well. I mean, just even in the last 5 or so for him, down to about 29 minutes a game. So like we said, not good stuff for Tobias as of late, even though the 76ers keep cruising. So that's all the time we have for you in this one, though. Make sure to like and subscribe to that page. We are going to continue coming back at you each and every weekday this season with our player props and a couple game videos. So until we see you next, happy betting.